to Shudders and Shivers Studio, the place where creepy tales are brought to life. My name is Mr. Night Terror, and I am not your friendly next door neighbor. Oh, no, no. If you're looking for warm hugs and unicorns and boy, you are in the wrong place. But if it's terrifying tales you hope to find, then get comfortable, because Mr. Night Terror is here to keep it creepy. Let us begin.
To new beginnings, Mia said to herself, downing the last of the wine from the glass. It tasted sour and rancid on her tongue. She never really liked red wine. Everybody always says it's an acquired taste, and heck, she hadn't acquired it yet. However, sheer desperation to take the edge off had driven her to open the forgotten bottle of wine. Tonight would be the last night she would sleep in the bed she had shared with her husband all these years. Tomorrow morning she would close the door to their home one final time. Mia needed a fresh start, but beginning over wasn't easy, especially when you had a 5-year-old. She hoped that it would be alright and that she and Lily would be able to move on. The house was bigger than it appeared on the listing. The two of them definitely didn't need this much space, but the place was old, so it fell within her budget. Mia tried to convince herself. With a lot of TLC, she could make this place home. Lily had been a bundle of energy on the drive here, and now that they've arrived, Mia was thankful to release the child to the open space surrounding the house. The porch creaked with every step, announcing Mia's arrival to absent ears. Entering the kitchen, the house felt cold and unwelcoming. Mia shivered as she moved through the room to the living room. The afternoon sun seemed to fail in its quest to bring some light into the house, and it was dark and eerie. Mia felt instant regret. She should have insisted on seeing the house in person before committing to it. Misery often results in stupid decisions. As if she could shake off her despair, Mia shook her head. This was their home now. Silence surrounded her, threatening to engulf her. Running her fingers over the old sofa in the living room, Mia looked around, feeling like an intruder in her own home. Finally, the sound of laughter snapped her out of her trance that she seemed to be in. Lily was laughing for the first time since the death of her father. That sound was so precious and promising that it brought Mia to tears. Stepping out onto the porch, Mia called Lily over. The little girl was flushed from running and playing, and it made Mia happy to see her this way because she had feared that the child had lost her childhood before it ever really began.
Mommy, I made a friend,
Lily announced proudly. Looking around anxiously, Mia saw that there was no one in the yard. She smiled, remembering that it wasn't unnatural for children to have imaginary friends when they were faced with significant loss. Mia was all for it if an imaginary friend had helped put that gorgeous smile back on her sweet little face. The days seemed to become intertwined as Mia fell into a homemaking routine. The house seemed more like a home every day. Lily loved it here, and Mia's despair was lightened by the sound of laughter and delight daily. Lily's friendship with her invisible companion grew as the child shared stories of their adventures during every meal, and soon replies like, "Yes, Mommy," were replaced by, But Rory says it's okay for me to have chocolate before bed." Every night, long after Mia had put Lily to bed, she would hear the child talking to Rory, giggling and plotting mischief. Lily seemed to be happier now than she had ever been, a thought which filled Mia with mixed emotions. How very bittersweet it all was. She did not doubt that these happy memories would replace any she had shared with her late father. This saddened Mia greatly. But Lily was only 5 years old, and it wouldn't be fair to expect her to cling to memories of such a young age. On a sunny Wednesday afternoon, Lily headed out as soon as she had finished her snack. Mia heard the child bursting with laughter outside before she even cleared the plates from the table. The last room that Mia needed to tackle was the spare room next to the living room. The house was so large that Mia had left that room untouched. With determination, she picked up her cleaning supplies and entered the room. It was the darkest room in the house, as if the absence of light was something palpable, something heavy. The light had made no difference to the stifling gloom of the room. Mia considered simply keeping the room closed, as it seemed to be the only part of the house that was still as uninviting as her home had been initially. Something caught her eye in the corner of the room. Reaching down to pick it up, Mia felt an unwelcoming presence in the room that she just couldn't explain. Grabbing the object, she turned and left the room, closing the door firmly behind her. Taking a deep breath to collect herself, Mia saw that it was an old roll of film in her hand. It was dusty and dull, but it filled Mia with intrigue. What untold secrets did this tiny roll contain? She wondered. Even though Mia felt it was wrong to develop this roll, she knew she would. Grabbing her bag and stepping onto the patio, she shouted to Lily playing in the yard. "Lily, sweetheart, let's go for ice cream." You never had to ask that child twice, and Mia laughed at her daughter's enthusiasm. The town was tiny, but quaint. Mia knew they would soon become part of the community here, and it was a thought that made her happy. They spent the rest of the afternoon exploring the local shops before picking up the photos and heading home. That night, as Mia put her daughter to bed, Lily grabbed her hand and smiled at her. "Mommy, thank you for bringing me here. Rory thanks you too," she said softly. Stroking her daughter's hair, Mia smiled back. The cork popped loudly, filling the room with the welcome aroma of a fresh bottle of red wine. Pouring herself a glass, Mia thought back to when she despised red wine just a few days ago. Remembering the pictures, she leaned over and removed them from her bag. She felt guilty for delving into images meant for others, but she just couldn't resist. The first photo seemed like it was taken ages ago. 5 unfamiliar faces of a family sitting stiffly looked back at her. The second photo was the same family, but the father was absent. The family looked grim, except for the youngest member, who smiled widely. The next photo showed only the mother and 2 of the 3 boys. The mother looked old and bone tired, while one of the boys looked sad. The youngest, although older now, was smiling happily again. Even though the images unsettled Mia, they were like a car crash she just couldn't look away from. As she flickered through the pile faster and faster, the pictures of only the mother and the smiling boy followed. Lastly, only the boy remained. He was older now, nearly a man. His gaze was intense and unnerving. Photos of him in the house followed. Mia's mouth was dry and her tongue felt plump as she realized that this disturbing boy had lived in her home. What happened to the rest of his family? Mia supposed she'd never know. The last photo caused Mia to drop her glass. It shattered on the floor, freeing the red liquid it had kept captive. The red wine embraced its wooden canvas as it flowed over the floor. As Mia got closer to Lily's room, she heard her little girl shout out in delight, "Rory, hello!" Mia shouted out too, but it was too late for her words of warning to fall on her beloved daughter's ears. Reaching the door, Mia fell to the ground. Lily's bed was empty, just as the last photo promised it would be.
We have come to the end of our spooky slope, friends. Join me, Mr. Night Terror, again next time for more chilling tales. Let's face it, life is so much better if you have a few shivers running down your spine. Sweet dreams, Daredevils.